Imagine this. You're sitting at the kitchen table on a Sunday morning, coffee going cold beside you, and you're doing that thing you always said you wouldn't do. You're doing the math, again. You've got a spreadsheet open, or maybe it's just a scribbled notepad, and you're adding up your 401k, your savings account, maybe a small brokerage account you opened 3 years ago and kind of forgot about. And somewhere in the middle of all those numbers, you feel it. This quiet, warm reassurance wash over you, because the number looks okay. It looks like maybe, just maybe, you're going to be fine. And that feeling, that sense of, I think I've got this handled, that might be the most financially dangerous feeling a person in their 50s can have. My name is Rick, and I spend probably way too much of my time thinking about money, not in a Wall Street ticker tape kind of way, but more like, why do smart, hard-working people make decisions about their financial future that quietly unravel everything they've spent decades building? I find myself reading retirement studies at midnight, talking to people who are 5 years from their target retirement date, and watching something shift in their expression when we really dig into the numbers. Something between surprise and a kind of slow dawning worry. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because there is a specific belief, a lie, honestly, that a remarkable number of people in their 50s hold on to like a lifeline. And the terrifying part is it doesn't feel like a lie. It feels reasonable. It feels like common sense. It might even feel like wisdom. But it has a way of quietly setting people up for a retirement that looks nothing like the one they imagined. So let's talk about what that lie actually is, where it comes from, and, more importantly, what you can do about it if you're sitting there thinking, okay, that kitchen table thing sounds uncomfortably familiar. Here's the dangerous belief, and I want you to really hear it clearly. I know what I've saved. I'll figure out what I need to spend when I get there. That's it, that's the lie. And before you close this video, because that sounds totally reasonable, just hear me out, because this is where the nuance really matters. Most people in their 50s who are thinking about retirement are intensely focused on one side of the equation, accumulation. How much have I saved? Is my portfolio growing? Am I maxing out my contributions? Those are all genuinely good questions, but they represent only half the picture, and it's the easier half, the half where you have some control, where the numbers are concrete, where you can point at a brokerage statement and say, look, here's my progress. The spending side, what your life will actually cost in retirement, is messier. It's harder to imagine. It involves projecting yourself into a future version of your life that doesn't fully exist yet, and making guesses about what that life will look like day to day. So most people just don't do it, or they do a rough version of it. They say something like, well, I make $90,000 now, and I've heard you need about 80% of your pre-retirement income, so I'll need around $72,000 a year. I think I'll have enough for that. And then they go back to watching their portfolio grow, feeling quietly optimistic. The problem is that the 80% rule, which is genuinely one of the most repeated pieces of financial guidance out there, is not a plan. It's a placeholder. It's the financial equivalent of saying, I'll eat healthy when things calm down. It sounds like a plan. It is not a plan. Here's why. The 80% figure comes from the idea that in retirement you'll spend less, you won't be commuting, you won't be buying work clothes, your kids will hopefully be financially independent, your mortgage might be paid off. All of that is true for some people. But here's what it doesn't account for: the enormous variability in what different retirements actually cost. Because retirement is not one thing. It's not a single lifestyle that everyone slides into at 65. Some people retire and their spending drops dramatically. They downsize, they simplify, they find that they don't actually need or want as much as they thought. Other people retire and their spending increases, at least in the early years, because now they finally have the time to travel, to take up hobbies, to spend money on experiences they deferred for decades. And then there's the wild card that almost no one's 80% calculation properly accounts for: healthcare. Okay, so I want to spend some real time here, because this is where I see people genuinely shocked, like eyes wide, recalculating everything shocked. The average retired couple in the United States will spend somewhere in the range of $300,000 to $350,000 on healthcare costs over the course of their retirement. And that's after Medicare kicks in at 65. That number, depending on the study you're looking at and the assumptions you use, can go higher. And for anyone who retires before 65, the gap years, the period between retirement and Medicare eligibility